sebahagian daripada sumber semula jadi yang boleh diperbaharui dan mampat seperti kayu. Negara kita komited sepenuhnya terhadap urusan hutan bagi memastikan ekosistem dan produktiviti hutan yang mampat untuk generasi hari ini dan masa depan.
Good evening, you're watching Bizworld. After 1 week of net selling, foreign investors returned as net buyers last week when buying of Malaysian equities rose to 477.5 million ringgit from a net outflow of 82.9 million ringgit the previous week. MIDF Research's weekly fund flow report, however, said local retailers were net sellers with a total 121.4 million ringgit outflow last week. Local institutions stayed as net sellers for the fourth consecutive week with 356.1 million ringgit. To date, international funds have been net buyers for 17 out of the 22 weeks of this year, with a total net inflow of 7.4 billion ringgit, while local institutions have been net sellers for 19 out of 22 weeks this year, having sold 8.5 billion ringgit of equities to date. Based on year-to-date report, however, local retailers have been net buyers at 1.1 billion ringgit. The property sector continues to be bogged down by labor shortage, supply chain disruption, and rising building material costs. Hong Leong Investment Bank said Malaysian listed property companies' results for the first quarter this year were a mixed bag. This after 2 out of 8 property stocks the firm covers are above its estimates, 3 were in line while the remaining 3 comes in below estimates. Overall sector profits declined by 25.1% quarter-on-quarter and were flattish at 1.8% year-on-year. Labor shortage, which had caused the constraint in construction activities, resulting in lower progress billings. The end of the home ownership campaign also played a role in the decline of sales in 2 property companies. This is because the campaign supported sales in the previous year, as most of the properties were in the mid to high price range. HSBC expects the ringgit to stabilize in the second half of the year, reaching towards 4.28 versus the US dollar by year end. According to its chief investment officer, James Chio, this is in line with the country's solid economic growth, which is expected to expand 5.5% this year.
And we think that the dollar Malaysian ringgit will stabilize in the second half of this year, given that this in the beginning of this first half of this year has been very volatile. And we think that the Malaysian ringgit will stabilize to move towards 4.28 by the end of the year when the market sentiment globally improves.
The ringgit opened at 4.39 against the US dollar today after hitting 4.4 on May 19th, the lowest rate since March last year. Meanwhile, HSBC expects Bank Negara to increase the OPR by another 50 basis points, ending the year at 2.5%. Last month, it raised the OPR by 25 basis points, its first increase since the pandemic. In the meantime, CIMB Group has committed 100 million ringgit in the financing through the Low Carbon Transition Facility, LCTF, to empower businesses to adopt low carbon and sustainable practices for business resilience. Businesses, including SME, will benefit from collateral-free financing of up to 10 million ringgit with an affordable repayment period of up to 10 years at a low interest rate of up to 5% per annum. This is in line with the Malaysian government's aspiration for the country to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. The LCTF, which is offered through CIMB Bank and CIMB Islamic Bank, reinforces the group's ambition of mobilizing 30 billion ringgit in sustainable finance by 2024. As of January 2022, CIMB has exceeded 1 billion ringgit in sustainability-linked financing for its corporate client. Oil prices inched higher today, driven by expected demand recovery in China as it relaxes tough COVID-19 curbs, and on doubts that a higher output target by OPEC plus producers would ease tight supply. Now, Brent crude futures were up 19 cents at $119.70 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate WTI crude futures were up 25 cents at $118.75 a barrel. SPI Asset Management said in a note, while the new increased monthly targets continue to be driven by proportional contributions from OPEC+, it is unrealistic to expect an increase close to the headline figure. Last week, OPEC+ decided to boost output for July and August by 648,000 barrels per day, or 50% more than previously planned. However, many members have little room to ramp up output, including Russia, which faces Western sanctions. And that's all the time we have for BizWorld. I'm Sabrina Zainal. Thank you for investing your time with us.